Minecraft is a lot like Animal Crossing. It's one of the few games that is genuinely relaxing. You have your own little world that you can decorate however you want, however you can imagine it. In your head, you can build it by hand, and gathering the materials to do so yourself is what makes it satisfying. And you can leave it to go on adventures in really awesome and dangerous environments, parkouring over the nether basalts and tenuously bridging across the precarious floating end cities. It's fun. And by simply having a mining exploration adventure game combined with my chill, relaxing, build anything, creative, cozy game, that's why Minecraft is a great game. Minecraft's a fucking horrible survival game. Oh my god, survival mode? My ass. All it takes is 3 wool to avoid any and all danger. Food is, slightly harder, but I can set up a subsistence farm in 30 minutes with stone tools, probably less than that. By the time my Jimmy John's order has arrived, I've solved world hunger. Okay, let's slow down here for a second. First, let's ask ourselves, what is a survival game? The definition of survival as a word is to not die. On its own, that is a very passive goal. You just gotta keep breathing, pretty easy. And most games are very active. Thus, a survival game is about making the process of simply being alive an active goal that needs to be pursued. And this is usually done via timers, something that you need to prepare for. X is coming, and if you don't do Y, you're screwed. The most obvious example is hunger. If you sit there and do nothing, you'll eventually starve to death. Another very common example in games is raiders. Sons of the Forest does this really well. Cannibals will eventually take notice of your base, so it's up to you, the player, to make a impenetrable fortress out of Lincoln logs and fill it with booby traps. The point is, in a survival game, the danger comes to you. Like I said before, I love Minecraft. Yes, I think even vanilla is a good game that still holds up to this day. Sure, it could be a lot better. There's no shortage of video essayists critiquing Minecraft's progression, but at the end of the day, I think the Caves to Nether to End pipeline is a pretty fun one. And along the way, you'll be rewarded with tools that make your base building cozy experience easier. Vanilla doesn't need to be a survival game, and in fact it shouldn't. But that's what mod packs are for. Because I love Minecraft. And I love survival games. But to my shock, there is extremely little overlap between the two, which is kind of ironic, considering the name of the game mode is a huge misnomer, and has been that way for many years. Very, very, very few mods and mod packs have actually tried to make Minecraft a survival experience. I did manage to find one. Rebirth of the Night's tagline is that it aims to bring back the initial fear you felt when you first played Minecraft as a kid, when you cowered in your dirt hole hoping the monsters wouldn't get ya. So, here's everything I like about Rebirth of the Night, why it's a very awesome mod pack, and it is highly underrated, and you should go play it. Minecraft, you can build anything, in fashion, but not necessarily function. You could build a house with legs, but can you get it to actually walk? Okay, fair enough, but can you build any kind of airship or moving structure that isn't 90% slime blocks and pistons? More than that, a cardboard box is just as defensible as a castle. However, the main gimmick of Rebirth of the Night is that it adds invasions. Mobs will attack your base. In fact, that's the main gimmick. Zombies have a new role. They aren't just the basic Goomba melee attacker, they're also the sappers now. They will dig to reach your base. They will tower up if you are too high, and they will bridge to you if there is a gap. Now, having a few stray zombies knock on your door each night is more annoying than it is threatening, which is where invasions come in. After some amount of time, I don't know how much, an invasion will occur, where a horde of mobs will swarm your base. Simple addition of regularly scheduled monster raids means that your base has to be functional and defensible. No longer is a small box of dirt an impenetrable iron fortress. The fun, to me, that invasions bring to the table is that they present a challenge that's overcome through building. You know, the thing that the game is about? My first house was this wooden shack, and, at first, it was your usual Minecraft shack. There was a door, but zombies just kind of burst in. So, I added an exit ladder that leads to the roof, and an awning that can be open to attack them with a height advantage. I could open and I added trapdoor windows that I could open, shoot out of, and then close. Little did I know, these windows are actually real, historic, medieval engineering techniques. It's called an embrasure. However, eventually, my ugly wooden box was blown up by a creeper in a horrible skill issue accident. So, I worked on building an actually defensible structure. I built a bridge into the middle of the river, giving myself a natural moat. Since swimming is slower than walking, I knew the mobs would take the bridge. So, I added more embrasures, and instead of using a door, I used 2 wooden fence gates. Because, as I learned, it turns out bandits can open doors. I also turned the space into a tower. But of course, what good is a sniping tower with nothing to shoot? Enter Spartan weaponry. This mod pack has throwing weapons. They're a lot cheaper than arrows, but the drawback is that they take a ton of inventory space. So I placed a double chest at the top of my tower and filled it with throwing axes. Because I was in the early game, I couldn't rely on having superior gear to fight off all the mobs, or having some kind of automated redstone defense, or something expensive like iron golems. Really, I'd use the simple early game materials of stone and wood to make something defensible. And when the invasion actually came around, all my defenses paid off. It was the most satisfying experience I ever had in Minecraft. Hordes of zombies came pouring in, but they got stuck in the river. But not all of them, so I held them back with my spear. I threw axes on top of my tower, and there were giants that came in, and they threw boulders. But I think the hit detection on the boulders is kind of whack. Like, I feel bad for him, man. That totally should have hit me. Do you have any idea how satisfying it was to have made a tower and to have it be just tall enough to stab these giants? Simply placing blocks in a smart way, a smart method, had given me the defenses I needed to make the invasion somewhat of a breeze. Of course, there were a few close calls. My wall blew up, and I hastily made repairs. And I realized I had made a mistake by making my chests so low to the ground they were prone to destruction. But in the end, I made it through that night. And it was probably some of the most fun I ever had in Minecraft. By far the most fun I've ever had in single-player Minecraft. I think the main thing that really seals the deal for why invasions are so fun is because it makes building a base in Minecraft really, meaningful. You can fairly easily get away with being homeless in vanilla, or having a very small, tiny, crappy home. The only motivation to build is intrinsic artistic creative expression, which is good and fine in and of itself. I mean, it seems like so simple and obvious. Incorporating building into the main gameplay loop? In my building game? It's more likely than you think. Bam! It's me, Salesman Nerdpeel, here to interrupt the video at the most inconvenient possible time. But don't worry, I'll be quick. Say, you're watching a Minecraft video, right? Perhaps you'd like to buy some Minecraft stickers. You can do that at etsy.com/shop/nerdpeel. Link in the description. In this pack, you start the game by grabbing some branches, grabbing some stones, making a flimsy axe, chopping a tree, and you can turn that into a single plank. But once you get a crafting table, you can turn a single log into 3 planks. And if you manage to get your hands on some steel, you can make a sawmill and get 5 planks out of a log, plus a bunch of this other crap like tree bark, which is free smelting fuel. Even something like lumberjacking has progression in this mod pack. Even something like lumberjacking has progression. You can get more efficiency out of the same resources by progressing through the game. The other great example is the millstone. Ooh, baby, you need these things for so many recipes. So many recipes are gated behind the millstone. It can turn rotten flesh into leather. It can turn limestone into rich slag. You can turn coal into cola, sugarcane into sugar, wheat into flour. This thing is essential. And you could plug the millstone into a hand crank. That's the earliest, easiest game solution. And this works, but it is very slow and very tedious. And I was sitting there, right-clicking over and over again, thinking, what am I doing? This isn't gameplay. But that tedium was the motive for me to build a windmill, because the windmill does the same thing of powering the grindstone, but it's automatic. But first, in order to get all the material for that, you need to become a weed farmer. A hemp farmer. Then you need a big open space, right? This windmill, it's got to get some wind. And I had already constructed a tower that was perfect for it, so I converted the thing into a windmill. And, it's got to have its axles connected down to the stone itself. You need gearboxes. And don't you see what's going on here? This is another building challenge. The millstone is a refinery. The millstone is a refinery, but unlike most other mod packs, it's not just a single block. It's a multi-block structure. It's something you gotta build, and that reinforces the theme of this mod pack, that building is a part of the gameplay loop. It's no longer optional. If you want to progress through the game, you're gonna need a homestead. And that added sense of function and practicality makes whatever home base you do end up building feel so much more meaningful and alive. And then there's food. Food is another way of adding purpose to all your building. And food also reinforces this theme. It also adds to the survival game element. Food also adds to the progression element. It's all thanks to 3 mods. The first is Pam's Harvest Craft. Pam's Harvest Craft adds tons of crops and cooking recipes into the game. By itself, this much variety is pointless and bloated. There's no reason to have 8 million different crops and 12 million different recipes. That's where Spice of Life comes in. Each unique recipe that you eat contributes to raising your max health. You get permanent character progression upgrades based off of how much variety is in your farm. It adds a new dimension to increasing your power level. Typically, you only do that through better weapons and armor, but now you can increase your character's durability through farming. And I just think that's really cool. Oh yeah, and the third food mod to top it all off and to reinforce that survival urgency would be Hunger Overhaul. Or as I like to call it, Gulag Starvation Overhaul. Anyways, when you spawn in, you might notice that food isn't exactly filling anymore. Previously, it was a very easy problem to solve. Now, you need as much as you can get. And this tension that comes from having a problem that you need to solve by building and crafting, it's fun. Fishing is a great way to get food immediately and cheaply, though it costs time. Farming is a good consistent food source, but crops need water, and they need protection from trampling, which facilitates more base building. And animals need pens and a trough and other stuff. You can't just cram them in a box anymore. They need living conditions, thanks to Animania. In vanilla, having a food source is mostly a one-and-done deal, but in Rebirth of the Night, each food type that you start producing contributes to the amount of recipes you have, which not only increases your max health, but also gives you access to the more fulfilling condensed recipe. This mod pack adds progression to an area that previously didn't really have it. And again, it is a challenge that you overcome by building a strong homestead. Once again, reinforcing the core of building as a part of the gameplay loop and not just some optional thing you can do if you feel like it. It's not for everyone. The increased challenge, having your structures torn down by mobs as they come barreling in, having to build a whole village for production and refinery and defense. And I don't think this is how vanilla Minecraft should be. But god damn it, I love this mod pack. Rebirth of the Night has always been my favorite because it's the only one that feels different to me. First of all, it has a vision and a design goal. It wants to be a specific type of game, and very few mod packs can say that they do that. I feel like most other mod packs are either, here's 1 billion different automated machines to help you build more automated machines. And then there's the second category of like, here's every adventure, magic, and monster mod put into a blender. It's not a cohesive experience. So already, simply by having a design goal, that makes this mod pack the cream of the crop, in my opinion. But what makes it one of a kind is that its specific vision is to make Minecraft a survival game, and to add building as a part of the gameplay, to make your structures feel functional, and all that is just scratching the surface. There is so much more to this mod pack. Multiple dimensions, the fact that the game progresses with your progression, meaning the more dimensions you delve and the deeper you dig, new monsters will spawn. There's so much depth to this pack, but that's all the time I have for today, because I have my own whole-ass video game that I gotta get back to making. This video was kind of a fun side detour from that. I have always wanted to make a video singing the praises of Rebirth of the Night, for it has blessed me with fun gameplay, and so I return the favor by offering free advertising in the form of this video. And now, my sacred duty is done.